Hey, this is Mo Lunsford at Union Grove Lumber Studios.
And this is the Shed Geek. We want to welcome you to today's episode.
All right, guys, welcome back to another episode of the Shed Geek Podcast. Friday Fun Days with your host, Sam Bassiter, also currently known as Sam Byler. Man, it feels good just to sit for a minute and calm down a little bit. I was actually going to do a monologue on this episode, but the more I thought about it, what I want to talk about and stuff, I was like, I got to figure out if I can get my old boss man on here. The Shed Geek himself, the king of Shed Geeks. He's looking out the back and looking around. He ain't got his white shirt on or his suspenders or nothing.
You see,
and I kind of showed him up a little bit at the Michigan thing. He even got a little odd about it.
Oh, you did? You see what I got on?
Yeah, what are you doing with that?
Innovations Manufacturing. Our boys out in Denver, trying to give them a shout out.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, you know what? I haven't done my monologue, so I got all messed up. I was going to do my monologues every Friday, first Friday of the month. Well, first Friday in October, I was knee deep in chainsaws and trees and branches and house roofs and all kinds of stuff. So I never got around to doing it. And then I moved my daughter to Denver, and I never got around to doing it then. And your poor wife knows she's had it scheduled a couple of times already, and I can't never get around to getting it done. So yeah, the other day I was like, you know what? I got to get Shannon on for my monologue. We can talk about a whole bunch of stuff. How long are we going to be here tonight?
Oh man, whatever it takes, whatever it takes. Well, I'm starting to enjoy the monologues a little more, especially I'm encouraged by the positive feedback that I'm getting from them. Because it's a little bit more natural, in my opinion. You are a natural content creator, especially whenever it comes to monologue. You know, your lives, just your Facebook feed, the way you've kind of built your brand, even if you weren't building it purposefully or if you were. And so, like for me, it's taken me a little bit to get comfortable. I like to interview people and kind of gain off of their you know what I'm saying? Like that back and forth helps me a little bit. So it's been tough for me to just go on and rattle. Not that I can't talk for 45 minutes.
Yeah.
I just want to say something about you in that 45 minutes. And I worry about being able to do that if it's just me. The guest helped make it a little easier for me. But
yeah, well, they do. I mean, it's much as I like running my mouth, I still do like it when I can bounce off of somebody else. It's, I don't know, it kind of feeds you, I think, doesn't it? Otherwise, you have to feed yourself.
It's why I started asking questions kind of at the end of the podcast, like, what questions do you have? That way, I'm prompted, and it makes it easier because you know this in this short time. What most people do, because there's a lot of humble people in this industry, and what most of them say is like, oh, you don't want me on there. I really don't have much of a story to tell. And I get it. I get it that you're not you might seem like if I come on there, I seem like I'm bragging or something along those lines. And that's the last thing I want to do. And it's really not about that, Sam. It's the fact that everybody has a story, whether it's how you got here, what you're doing, where's it going. The most meek personalities have been some of the best feedback I've gotten. So like we're not a big flashy industry really anyway. So like your meekness is appreciated, your humbleness is appreciated. But honestly, your story, whether it be something you don't really see as inspirational or not, that's kind of our job as the host to pull some of those things out and ask you questions and get things going. And you'd be kind of surprised at how you get lost in the moment and 45, 50 minutes goes by before you know it. And then you're looking at me going, well, that was way easier than I expected.
Yeah, I hear that all the time. Yeah. I got an episode coming out Friday that is with Vargas, and it's a prime example of, I don't know that I got anything for that long. And I'm like, hey, listen, it doesn't matter if it's not that long. Some of these guys would probably like if we did 20-minute ones every once in a while.
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah.
But I mean, and when we got done, I just looked at him and I'm like, see? And he's like, that's crazy. He's like, it's like you just blow through it like there's nothing to it.
If you can get lost in the conversation, it's way more, it's way more important because the content that begins to get generated comes across as more authentic and less staged. Because, like, we have people ask me, do you send over a list of questions or whatever?
Oh,
And
yeah.
and at first I was like, well, do you want that? And now I just kind of go, no, no, because I, I don't want it to be rehearsed, but I do want you to be able to think about your answers. And I don't really know what I'm gonna ask you. It just kind of it's a perfect mix of not just sheds and shed related stuff and sometimes services and products, but it's life. You know what I mean? It's just life. There's so many
Yeah.
things that happen that people end up talking about: addiction, prison ministry. I'm trying to think of things that have came up on the podcast have essentially been like, well, what's that got to do with the shed? Well, maybe nothing, but maybe it was valuable for your entertainment. And guys come up to you. Is it my the guy down in Georgia? Please forgive me, sir. He's a hauler. The one that was talking all the junk on the Facebook page. He said
Oh,
across
he's
from,
not. He's a Florida boy.
yeah, the one that said across
Blouser.
Island Blouser,
Milan Blouser.
Island
For
Blouser.
Tony Becker talks just as much
Yeah.
trash as he does.
It was hey, it was entertaining. It's entertaining to watch all of that
So
play out.
you remember a couple years ago at the Georgia barbecue when those two guys were yelling at each other all the way through the competition, and
Yeah,
then they chest bumped at the end?
yeah,
Remember that? That's
yeah.
those two guys.
Okay.
It's
Well,
those two.
he came up and said, "Hey, man, yeah, at least I think it was him, unless it's some other guy." But said, "Hey, I just want you to know I listen to a podcast. I appreciate it. I'm on a 2-3 hour trip, man. It really takes
Mhm.
gives me some value and takes away from my trip to sit and dive in and listen to something." So we just try to, content's king. We try to create some good content, uh,
Absolutely.
curate something you want to listen to when you're hammering away, sawing away, selling away, hauling away, whatever it is you're doing, doesn't matter. We try to create that. And like sometimes that's a wide range, kind of like today, probably of what we're going to be talking about. Uh,
Yeah.
so yeah, I know where I want to start, but maybe you have an agenda, so I'll sit back and be quiet.
Yeah, you know me. I've always got an agenda somewhere. People just don't know where it's at. One of the key things to me, you said something earlier, and you've said this before about it's the way I work on my brand, whether I mean to or not. And I think that's when I am at my highest sales success level is when people don't even know for sure if I'm working on it or not.
Sure.
That's like the biggest feather in my cap you can give me. Thank you.
Hey,
Um,
well,
because
it's true. It's true.
some days I feel like I'm working on it, nothing happens, and the next day it goes poof, all on its own.
Isn't that sales though?
Yeah,
I
you
did
got to
the
keep
same,
that pipeline piled.
that's right. I worked hard and worked hard and worked hard. I didn't see any results. I worked hard, I worked hard, I worked hard, and I saw a ton of results.
Uh-huh.
So all I got to do is work hard again. Not always. It just doesn't always yield the same results. You just got to keep putting in the effort
Yep.
and deal with the ebbs and flows. That's been my experience, but
Yeah.
yeah, you're more than a hauler, which is kind of the category that people put you in a lot of times, even myself. But you're more than that, and I think it shows through things you're doing right now with like this North Carolina thing and all that. But yeah, I go ahead and start where you want, but I'll tell you where I want to start on something. I want to start on this little thing right here.
Hey, let's do it. Let's get that out of the way. So I finally made a trash post again tonight. I'm a little bit of a junkie, and I've basically for 5.5 weeks I have not trashed Facebook whatsoever. Everything I've done's been straight up and legit. And then the day rolled along, and tonight I finally got to scroll Facebook again for a little while. I have not had time Hardly at all. I mean, I might spend 5 minutes trying to get through some stuff, and most of it's my popular guys that are popping up and what they're doing. But tonight I got to spend a little more time on it, and I actually got stood up for dinner date tonight. So I had an extra 2 hours that I could use. And I was, just scrolling around a little bit, checking on some of my friends and stuff. And I was like, oh, today's voting day. And so I did. I made a trash post, and then I made a comment on there that's even trashier about the fact that I didn't even go vote today. And that, people didn't think too far, because a week and a half ago, I had a post that I made that showed that I had my I voted sticker on. I voted a week and a half ago already.
I knew you were trolling. I knew exactly what you were doing. I didn't see your sticker the other day, but I've learned not to jump at the first response with you when you say, well, I didn't even vote today. He didn't say I didn't vote at all. He said I didn't vote today. And I've tried to start watching your post when I see them. I don't spend a lot of time on Facebook, but I have to spend a decent amount to brand and things like that. And I was like, yeah, I'm curious to see where this is going. So looks like they called your state already right before I came in here to say they called your state. But
I was a little disappointed that Kentucky and Indiana beat us this year. But I think Kentucky and Indiana got called, then West Virginia, and then I think it was South Carolina.
So I'm going to share with you an idea. I'm never short on ideas. It's always never enough time to implement them.
Yep.
I'm going to share with you a thought that I had recently, and it probably would never go anywhere. But in my opinion, you know what I think would make an excellent podcast, and perhaps one exists that's out there that I'm just not aware of. But how many times in the last 4 years, and especially over the last 3 months, have we heard about national politics, particularly the presidential race?
Mm-hmm.
And we was joking. I was joking with somebody today, and maybe you don't want his name mentioned. I don't know, but it was in a joking manner. But I said, I got to go vote, and he said, "What are you voting in Illinois for? It doesn't matter. Your vote don't count." And we laughed about it. And I said, yeah, I mean, that's the thing. I know my state's going to go one direction or the other always, or at least for the foreseeable future. But something that I told him I thought would be interesting is how much does the national political scene play on your personal life? I know it trickles down. I get it. It affects us. Who's president matters. But we spend so much time on Facebook, other social media platforms, in person, talking about national politics because it becomes the easy part. But if you're like me, you get to a point where you get down to fill out your ballot, and there's a lot of names on there that are locally.
Oh, yeah.
Local people that you don't even know what they stand for, and you have more of a chance to make an impact in that race than you do the national political post that can race that consumes the majority of your news feed and the majority of your time when you talk and discuss politics, because it's just seen on such a big level.
Yeah.
But what about your local coroner, your local sheriff or judge or county commissioner?
It's huge.
And most of them don't even know the names, what they stand for. Of course, they don't budget to go out like they do federally and do these things. But, how cool would it be to have a podcast on your talking to your local people and just creating, awareness, because you could have way more effect on a small local level.
This is the Shed Geek, and I'm here to endorse one of my favorite products, VersaBin from Cold Spring Enterprises. If you are in the carport or metal building business or have been looking to expand into that field, then VersaBin Tube Bender is a must-have. At VersaBend, we thank you for your interest in our tube bender. The VersaBend is designed to bend 2-inch, 2¼ inch, and 2½ inch square tubing, as well as the 2x3 rectangular tubing in either 12 gauge or 14 gauge. Powered by a robust 5 horsepower unit, It features 2 adjustable stops for setting your desired degree or pitch. Priced at just $19,500 FOB from Abbeville, South Carolina, you can secure your VersaBend with a down payment of only $1,500. Contact us to check availability and get placed on our order list. VersaBend is a family-owned business dedicated to providing an easy-to-operate bender made with off-the-shelf components. A unique feature of our bender is that it offers a full radius bend, unlike the double crushed bends produced by most other machines. Want to see it in action? Visit our website at www.csecarport.supply or give us a call at 864-446-3645.
Community, Sam. It's what it's something we all stand for. The playing community, the non-playing community. One thing we're all looking at is community. That's the purpose of it. And
that's a good point, man.
We just don't come together and really understand what's happening even in our neighborhood. Our I don't know the lady who even lives next door to me. Those kinds of things.
Yeah.
We have these real strong opinions.
Yep.
About this national political scene that really affects us as the effect you have on that race is so minute.
Yeah.
Just a thought. It's just a thought. And I say a podcast just because you can use whatever media you want, but
so I got 2 points for you.
Okay.
First point is in agreement with the fact that I just happen to have podcast equipment now. I got a little more knowledge about doing podcasts. Who ever thought you'd hear me say that? Now I'm back to riding down I-77 in a little red car. And I've told this story 100 times already, and I've told it from day one, and I'll tell it till the day end. You told me, hey, I've got an idea. I want to start a podcast. And what'd I tell you?
It won't work.
It won't work. And you said, well, I think I'm going to do it anyway. And I'm like, I just can't see haulers riding around, listen to us talk about sheds. I can't see builders swinging hammers and listen to us. And you bullheaded dog, you just went at it and found a way to do it anyway. And not only is that bad enough, but yeah, now you got me doing it too. And here I am actually saying that I actually like the idea of maybe starting me a local podcast on local politics.
Good. And not just you, but multiple people listening.
Yeah.
Imagine the presence you could begin to have.
That's a freaking great idea.
But who can, you got to have people do this around my thought was just, you go to the ballot and you're empty. You see those names, Trump and Harris and Kennedy and all that stuff. And then you get down here and you're like, who is, John Smith?
Yep.
I don't know this guy.
I got to tell you something. This is the first presidential race that I'm not watching since I got married. You know how long I've been married?
34 years. I saw it the other day.
Just the other day, 34 years. This is the first year I'm not sitting glued in front of a TV and watching the states come down hour by hour, 30 minutes by 30 minutes, whatever. I'm not watching it. And it's not because I'm doing a podcast tonight. I wasn't watching it anyway. I was supposed to go have a steak dinner tonight, hang out with some friends, and that's what I was going to do. I went and voted. I did what I thought was the right thing to do. And that's my second point to you was, I'm going to use the story that I used the other day when I was talking about when we help somebody in as big a situation as we're in with the whole hurricane thing here. Mm-hmm. Florida, Georgia, South Carolina, Tennessee, Virginia, the whole area that was hit. It's a huge area. Mm-hmm. And you're like, it's a huge mountain. We did the generator thing. Remember when we did the generator thing?
We did.
And you know how you eat an elephant?
One bite at a time.
One bite at a time. So since that whole how do you eat an elephant thing and the generator thing the other day, somebody made the story and I put it on Facebook. I don't know if you saw it or not, but people need to hear this. And I know we get a lot of listeners on here that aren't on Facebook. There's a guy walking along on the beach, and every once in a while he'd reach down, he'd pick up a clam and he'd throw it back in the ocean. And this guy was sitting up on the deck watching him, and there's millions of clams down there. Every once in a while he'd reach down, he'd grab one, he'd chuck it back in the ocean. Finally, the dude up on the deck, he couldn't take it anymore, and he yells down there, "Hey, what are you doing?" And he says, "I'm throwing clams back in." He says, "There's millions of them. You'll never make a difference." The guy reaches down, he grabs another one, he throws it in, he looks back up at him and said, "Made a difference to him."
Yeah.
That's
what a good
I can almost hang my whole life on that.
Yeah.
It's so big. Like I went up there yesterday, and I mean, it's just one story after the other. They just walk up and it's like they have to talk to you to get it out. And the Lonigers went up there tonight and dropped those 10 sheds off. They built me 10 sheds, completely donated labor, material, hauling, everything. And they go to drop the sheds off, and lo and behold, there's a guy there that starts talking to them about being there in the middle of it. And they get a story right out of the gate. And it's incredible, man. It's just crazy. So what I'm trying to say is your vote counts. At the end of the day, there's, I don't know, what are we up to now? 80 million people per site voting. So 161 people, 163 million people are voting. And probably, I don't know, I would imagine 20, 30 million if we did the work studying it. 20 to 30 million of them people are voting in states where they say it doesn't make any difference. Mm-hmm. And yet we still do look at the popular vote. And the popular vote makes a difference. So keep voting, Bubba.
This was my first election that my son got to vote in. It was
nice.
It was exciting to go there with me and his mother, and he got a chance to exercise his rights, and I'm still thankful for the opportunity to do that. And I know maybe not every listener votes and feels that way. Maybe they don't understand the story of the clam, right?
Yeah.
But it's to me, it's still a very important part. And, regardless of who you voted for, I'm happy that you went out and exercised your freedom. And I think we should continue to do that. Of course, I have my opinions, and we occasionally express them on here because we're not anti-political conversation, but we're not just made for that purpose. And the podcast doesn't just exist for that reason. And, anytime someone says you could turn people away because of your political views, or you could turn people away because of religion, or, praying on the podcast, we've done that, like, oh, well, that doesn't really fit the narrative of the big company. Cool. What am I supposed to say after that?
Yeah.
Like, okay, it doesn't fit your narrative. So now what?
Yeah.
Well, you can't be affiliated with it because, there's prayer and that creates division. Cool. Don't be a part of it. Don't be a part of it. It's fine. It's okay. You know what I mean? Like, don't come on. Don't advertise. Whatever it is. You know what I mean? Okay. Like we can take that. We can accept that. Like, but I think they usually want an argument or an agreement. Well, we'll change what we're doing. It's like, cool. Don't be a part of it.
Well, that's it's kind of interesting you bring that up, because I've been rolling around in my head for the last, I don't know, 3-4 weeks. About the fact that, we talk about, and we tell big companies this, we tell small companies this, that, we're not going to talk bad about anybody. We're not going to, and I've always got this niggling thing in the back of my head that, yes, I'm not going to do that, but I'm also not going to let the untruth get away.
Mm.
You're
going to get me fired up with a comment like that.
Well, I'm just saying, we're both of us firmly, and this is probably our strongest bind between the two of us. is the fact that both of us stand for truth. It doesn't bother us so much when it's said about us, but when it's said about other people, it gets us fired up in a hurry. And we have each other's back when it comes to that.
Yeah.
And I was in my monologue before I'd even decided I was going to have you on. I'd already decided that, you know what, I'm just going to put it out there that for the record and as a fact, I'm not going to talk bad about anybody, but I'm also not going to bend the truth. I'm not going to let the untruth get by. So I don't know. I just feel like there's a difference there. Why don't we have more of that? Why is it so hard to find people that want to just stand on truth?
It's, yeah, well, I was going to make a post this morning, that you don't have to defend the truth. It does a really good job defending itself. So if you just really we constantly feel the need to defend the truth if you tell it, but when you defend the truth, you're putting yourself in a position of vulnerability. And I am going to share my thoughts on this some. You're taught to be meek. Jesus was meek. You're taught to be meek. You're taught to follow Jesus. You're taught to be kind and exercise restraint and be decent, right? Like we were taught all these things whenever I was growing up. It was just, hey, don't start fights, don't, you know what I mean? Like don't create controversy. But when the truth becomes controversial, there's an issue. It's like my father-in-law says, they're legislating us into sin.
Uh-huh.
You're not going willingly. It's like, right this way to the chamber, sir. Like, well, we're not, like we're trying to go through our through our, through our compliance.
Yep.
You get what I'm saying? Like we're trying to go through our kindness. And if you're not careful, you can quiet yourself right into a mess. And I get it. God's supposed to fight your battles, but I heard a preacher say the other day, he doesn't give you the chair or the couch. He gives you the tree. Sometimes there's things you got to do, faith without works is dead. And you know what? If it's all works, man, where is the faith in the matter? You're supposed to step out into something that's scary. If you do what's safe all the time, anyway, you're going to get me on a pulpit here in a minute. It's just, and I think about my PR position too, or being given this platform in the industry. I think about my own PR moves, like, maybe you shouldn't talk about that. And then it's like, man, don't talk about it. Bad move. If I do talk about it, bad move. And sometimes you got to kind of throw caution to the wind, put your faith forward, try to be sensitive to the Holy Spirit and listen and go and make a move. But I think some people just, never cause any problem. Don't ever argue on Facebook. Never put yourself in a position to where, you're defending yourself. Look, I make myself just about sick sometimes. I think I've told you, I have tattoos.
Yeah.
I have tattoos. Oh no, there's a segment of the audience that's going to be like, wait a minute, we got to quit listening. All of a sudden, I don't like him. And I'm sorry if you feel that. I don't have anything vulgar. I do have a life that I have lived. So whether you agree with it or not, or whether I'm out there getting, my entire body tattooed tomorrow, that's not my position. What I'm saying is we've all done things and lived life. And I'm so sensitive to that I wear long sleeves in 98-degree weather because I don't want to offend someone. Not that I feel that I have anything offensive on my body.
Yep.
By traditional standards of most of the people I know. But then I worry. I'm like, you're so willing to make yourself uncomfortable to make someone else happy. And that's a PR move. You're always worried about, oh no, what if they stop listening because I'm just real and honest and raw, and I could probably go deeper on that, Sam, but I won't, so I don't get myself in trouble.
Unlock the power of productivity with Cardinal Leasing. Are you looking to elevate your business operations with top-tier equipment? Look no further than Cardinal Leasing. We offer a wide range of reliable and high-quality equipment tailored to meet your unique needs. Flexible leasing options. Whether you need short-term rentals or long-term solutions, our customizable leasing plans are designed to provide maximum flexibility and affordability. Conventional financing available. Cardinal Leasing also offers great conventional finance options for those of you that prefer that over-lease purchase options. Expert support. Our team of experienced professionals is here to guide you every step of the way, ensuring a seamless leasing experience. Boost efficiency. With our top-of-the-line equipment, you can enhance productivity, reduce downtime, and achieve your business goals faster. Why choose Cardinal Leasing? Competitive rates, exceptional customer service, hassle-free process, quick and easy approvals. Don't let outdated equipment hold you back. Partner with Cardinal Leasing today and take your business to the next level. Contact us now. Visit our website at equipment.cardinalleasing.us or call us at 618-803-4086 to get started.
I'm trying to figure out how far I want to go with this because I'm going back to my current disaster relief projects. Yesterday, I wrote a text message to an individual that's not on Facebook. He wanted me to text it out to him so he could send it to some of his people. And I put in there in text. Now, this wasn't verbal. This is in a text message. I put in there. In fact, if my computer was acting right and I wouldn't be using my phone to do this podcast, I'd pull it up and I'd read it to you. But basically, I said, while I was standing out here talking to these 4 families about the really nice tents they were living in, a sheriff deputy pulled up and got out with this nice little lady with her. Now, the sheriff deputy was also a lady, so it was 2 ladies. And they walked up there and they very apologetically explained. Now, remember, this is in a text message. They very apologetically explained that this other lady was with Child Protection Services, whatever they're called. I don't remember the exact name she had, but she was with Child Services. And they had issues with them, with the school children living in these tents. And I was kind of catching it secondhand off to the side, but I made it very plain that it was a sheriff deputy that came up and she brought the Child Protective Service with her. And they were apologetically explaining that they had to get better living quarters for these school kids to live in. The next day, I have a gentleman call me back from 7 states away from where I sent the text. And he's like, is it true that FEMA showed up and threatened these people that they would take their kids away and they would never see them again? And I'm like, that literally just happened yesterday. How did he get that far out of whack that fast? And that's what I told the guy. I'm like, I don't understand. I said, that's my story. I'm the one that set that out. And it was, listen, the only thing worse than having to defend Big Bad Orange Man is having to defend FEMA. I don't want to defend FEMA. Yeah. But at the end of the day, I'll stand for truth above my dislike for a federal group because it's not the truth. And we can just go ahead and get this out of the way right now. 90% of what you're hearing about FEMA in North Carolina is not true. It's not true. And it takes everything in me. Like, I literally despise having to say that.
Yeah.
Because it is a federal managed program that sucks.
Yeah.
But when you start throwing untruths around, you're going to get me in my grill pretty quick. And it's the same way for politics. It's the same way for my friends. I hope that at the end of my life, people will say that above and beyond anything that dude did, he stood for truth.
Yeah.
And I'll die on that legacy. Not on the fact that everybody says I help everybody and I've got a bleeding heart and all this other stuff. I don't really. You know me. I get grouchy as all get out at people about stuff. It's just what, if the Lord tells me to do something, I go do it. It's not because I want to.
You're talking about people, and you know, here's a classic example of somebody like that makes it easy for me to brag on. Dylan. You know Dylan. What you don't know, or maybe do, I don't know. You spent some time in prison ministry. Me and Dylan met under
Yep.
the attempt to create some kind of like faith-based drug and alcohol rehabilitation ministry here, perhaps Teen Challenge, because we're friends with the director of Teen Challenge in West Kentucky, Cape Girardeau, you know, and we just it was something that was a heart of ours. You know what I mean? It was a heart that we had towards this goal, is to see men become break free from their addictions and be family again, building community. It's back to that, building community. The first community, the most important community in your first ministry, is right there at home, taking care of your family. That's your community. Then it grows into your neighborhood and things like that. And Dylan's a perfect classic example of, like, this guy was a troublemaker when he was young, and that troublemaking tendency followed him around. Dylan's a felon. Here's a good example of something that I'll get passionate about. On Dylan was going to run for city council in our community, and probably none of our city councilmen are ever going to listen to this podcast, so it don't matter. But one guy, challenged his ability to run because he has a felony charge on him. Now he can run for mayor. He can run for governor. He can run for president, but he couldn't run for city council because there was a little bit of red tape there that kept him from doing it.
My word.
And he sits on the board of United Way. He sits on a couple other boards. He's really been celebrated because of his effort, but he's been to prison. He's been to prison, and he's a felon. And he also probably makes a better living than half my audience. And I'm not bragging, about
No,
that.
yeah, I know.
I don't mean it that way. What I'm saying is he had no option, because he recognizes he did wrong in his life. He paid his consequences. He went to prison. He found the Lord. He changed his life. He began to be a productive member of society, but society didn't forget. Society didn't forget. And now
somewhere we missed that last step in that whole process.
He's accountable now. So he couldn't get a job. He's logging, he's doing all these different things. He had to go create his own value. And thank God he did, because now he's went and created a massive value for himself to where he's hiring people, like crazy.
Oh, yeah.
And because he's been successful, maybe one of these days he'll hire the guy that wouldn't let him run for city council, because he'll get to see the true nature of who he really is as an individual. So
that'd be great
for me to brag on. 630,000 people is going to get released from prison this year. Sam.
Yep.
And are we going to write them off because that's who they were? It's like you preach all the time about helping somebody. You don't ask them their political party. And I promise
I actually talked about that today.
You just help them. You're not asking, are you a Republican or Democrat, before you give them a building.
Nope.
Because they're in need. And I know I'm probably in rare form. I'm just saying, here to segue, I want to kind of tell the story. Are you okay with me telling the story of, like, the generator?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So I'm going to tell you where that started. First of all, Sam was here. How funny that the Lord would have him here. He lives in South Carolina. He drove through Mayfield that morning, came up to my house,
night.
Stayed in the holiday.
Drove through Mayfield that night.
Yeah, you stayed in Holiday Inn here in Metropolis. I remember that, because I remember me and you talking about the flutter on the rose bushes.
Yep.
And I'm gonna tell you what happened, how this come together. At least the way I saw it, Sam, on my end, was there's a lady who I used to work for, I saw her at a church. It's actually the church Dylan goes to. It's a church that really supports the faith-based drug and alcohol community in Paducah. And you know, I even appreciate some of the guys listening because I even know a guy who's went through a program that all of you guys know here in Paducah.
Mm-hmm.
Or I even knew him.
Yep.
Anyway, go squirrel. So this lady who went to church there, I saw her on the day she got baptized. So I've kind of followed her story because she used to be my boss, and I just think, you know, it's neat to see somebody in their process. Tornado happened. She puts on her Facebook post, anybody got a generator that I can use? Give it to a friend because they lost everything in the Mayfield tornado. I got a generator. It's probably 10 years old. It's been sitting in a garage. Got a plug with it, all that good stuff. Probably fill it up just to run the carburetor empty about once a year. Just so it don't get gummed up, right? I don't know what I paid for it. $800 10 years ago.
Yep.
I couldn't part with it. I saw that she had a need and I couldn't part with it. You know, oh no, if I get that generator down there, I'll never get it back. Ain't no way. It'll never show back up. I went to bed and I couldn't sleep, and the Lord convicted me. And I woke up the next morning, and first thing I did was message her and said, "Hey, you still need a generator? I got one here. You can just have it." I'm in the position, I'm thinking to myself, I can just buy a new generator, you know?
Yeah.
I have a need, and I'm sitting here going, oh no, I'll never get my generator I never use back. What if I need it just in case or whatever, you know? The Lord really convicted me on it. Well, too bad, because generator was already spoken for. She didn't need it. And I was like, missed my opportunity to serve, to give. So it drove me crazy. And I knew you were in town. And I reached out to you, reached out to Kyle, and said, hey, you guys want to do a video and see if we can raise some money? If we could give 10 generators away, if we pull on the industry, that would be amazing. Kyle was busy. You came over. Me and you sat in front of my fireplace, asked for some money. 50 grand rolls in the first 24 hours.
Yep.
Obedience is greater than sacrifice. Just do it. Don't worry about what it's going to cost you. It's going to cost you something whether you do it or not. We go down, we offload 25 generators one day, another 25 another day. Just happens it's a buddy of mine I used to work with, Graceland. He's the Tractor Supply general manager there in Mayfield. Says I got 800 generators come in overnight. Boom, there we go.
I'm still friends with him.
Yeah. Yeah, Matthew Dowdy is his name.
Yep.
Look him up. But then you took it to a new level. I go down for 2 days, hand out some generators, and this is just Sam. This is what I love. My deed's done. I've done well. I came down. I gave away all these generators. Kyle even jokingly just put it on Facebook and was like, hey, Chip Gaines, why don't you give to this process? Chip Gaines actually reaches out. Why on earth he would? I have no idea. Reaches out. What do you need? Here's 10 grand. Lines it up.
Yeah.
The joke. Sends us $10,000.
Yeah.
You know what was beautiful was when I was handing out those generators, I was like, if you use the name Chip Gaines and Magnolia Network and DIY and all that stuff, people are going to know who he is 50% of the time in this country. But if you say the name Shannon Latham, Sam Byler, Shed Geek, you know who's going to know? Those who are in the industry. Outside of that, it don't mean a dime to anybody.
Nope.
I was like, I could go out here and say, we handed these out, or I could go out here and promote the kingdom, because I don't know everything Chip stands for, but he seems to be a good Christian man. And you know what I'm saying? Seems to spread the knowledge of Christ, and can do it way better than I can, given he's got a way bigger platform. So when I start handing those generators out, you know, these people were like, bless you, thank you, thank you. It means so much. And I was like, hey, you know who Chip Gaines is? You ever watch DIY Network? And they were like, yeah, the home improvement people. I was like, he actually bought this to give to you.
I remember when you were doing that.
And they were like, oh my goodness, you know, Chip, we said thank you. It means so much. That's great. And I thought to myself, those people will remember that forever. Now, I can't Chip up and just get him on the phone, but it didn't matter. The message that was put out there was that a Christian with a platform
Yep.
gave this to you, and he did in a roundabout way. It might not have been that exact one, but I was just telling everybody, hey,
yep,
Chip gave this to you, you know. And I hope they watch his show and buy his products and all that stuff. You know what I mean? Because of it, whatever. But
introducing the Challenger, the revolutionary new shed mover that's taking the industry by storm. The Challenger features a touchless design, ensuring it only makes contact at the end of the skids and the bottom of the floor joists, so rest easy knowing your gable walls will remain pristine. Worried about reliability? Fear not, the Challenger is always up for the challenge and will not overturn or scuff your shed. Harness the power of innovative wireless technology. Remotely control the Challenger via your smartphone. No cell service needed. And guess what? The cell phone remote comes standard with every Challenger at no extra cost. Featuring floating forks, a 4-directional tilting mast, and sliding weight transfer, move the shed weight precisely where you need it to get ultimate traction. With self-loading capability, straight onto your truck, say goodbye to the need for a hydraulic carriage. The Challenger makes your job easy and more efficient. Choose from 2 machine sizes, 10,000 pounds and 15,000 pounds. Perfect for any job. Visit www.shedchallenger.com or email us at info@shedchallenger.com or call or text 828-220-3508 for more information. Experience the future of shed moving with the Challenger.
you took it to a new level, and this is you. You said, I'm not done. God spoke to you in some way and said, I need to put together a platform of people. We need to call them in from all parts of the world. And we need to stay down here and start building a whole bunch of sheds back, homes back, barns back. And you organize this big orchestration of help. And that's what I admire about you is, I'm not saying I gave up on it. I'm saying I felt fulfilled in what I gave. But you took it way farther, and that was the most admirable thing that I think that you did. I was more impressed because I was like, wow, he's got 80 people down there staying in campers. I mean, it's not real life. It sounds like you know what I mean? Something you could only make up until North Carolina comes along.
Oh.
And you told me, you said, I'm about to do one of the biggest things we've ever done. And it's stepping out in faith. It's taking the chance that the people will show up. And talk about it, Sam, because I think it's awesome. And I think it explains the heart of who you are better than anything. So tell me about it if you want to. I just wanted to tell the tornado story because I think it was so fun how it came together to see. Yeah.
So the inexplainable part, I had a really good friend of mine go off on me last night. He was like, I can't even get people to show up to chop wood for a widow lady. And you just magically wave your wand around and there's people everywhere. And he was being sarcastic. But yeah, it's so here's the cool thing. It's always a God thing. It's not a Sam thing. I never planned on doing anything in Kentucky. That was never it was never on the schedule. It was never put into place. It was literally walking step by step and listen to the Spirit as it came along. Shannon calls, let's raise money for generators. Okay, let's see what we can do with it. And then through the generators, it's like, hey, look at all these needs here that need to be done. Well, I've got people. And you throw it out there and you never make a decision that, hey, I'm going to spend the next 3 months living in my old stomping grounds in Kentucky, and I'm going to do this. It was the same way down here. I literally drove all night to get home before this thing hit hard. And everybody seen me at the shed show. The shed people in the industry, you know, they all see me up there with my hat that Wendell Stover gave me. I haven't even got to talk about that on an episode yet. The big hat, you know, I went to Georgia barbecue the other day and they're like, "Where's your big hat at?" You know, and I'm like, most people don't know I didn't buy that hat.
Just tell them you just brought your big head. Tell them.
Yeah, I'm like, it's the only hat that makes my big head look small. Other than the one I have on right now. This hat's been around a long time. So when I got in, I was beat. I mean, I drove through rain from Dayton, Ohio, the whole way home, off and on, bands and stuff. I got tired in Kentucky. Dan drove for a couple hours, and then I took back over again, and I drove through some nasty stuff from Knoxville home. By the time I got to Asheville, it had gotten pretty bad. I literally come through the gorge less than 2 hours after that road disappeared. And by the time I got to Asheville, trees were falling pretty good, especially on the other side. And I knew it was an east wind because it was still the top side of the storm. So I felt halfway safe driving home because I knew the majority of the trees were falling on the northbound side. And I was, you know, pretty good shape on my side. But by the time I came down 25, there was actually trees on our side that had fell over the opposite way. So I dropped Dan off, and I'll never forget how amazed I was after I dropped Dan off. It was a little after 7 o'clock, about right at 7. The amount of traffic that was work traffic from people going to work in the middle of this huge hurricane. Mm-hmm. They were just doing what they always did. And it wasn't going to be as bad as the weather guy said it was going to be. Now, my wife had been talking to me since Tuesday about this thing. That's why I drove home all night. Mm-hmm. I got home 18 minutes later, power goes off. And I told her, I said, look, I can't do nothing right now. It's raining and storming too bad. I might as well catch up on some sleep. 2.5 hours later, I'm like, is it ever going to quit raining? Like, it's still raining. The storm's gone. The eye had moved through. We'd got the secondary winds that had come through the opposite direction and blew a whole bunch more trees down. Finally, I got up and I was like, you know what? I might as well go out and start checking out stuff, clearing the road. I did that live, walking down my backyard, and I grabbed a chainsaw. And 14 days later, I put that chainsaw down. 14 days later, 35 volunteers later, I have no idea how many jobs later. We worked straight. We didn't know when Sunday was. We didn't know when Saturday was. We didn't know when Wednesday was. I never made a decision that I was going to go cut trees up, that I was going to help anybody else. I never called anybody to come help me. They just started showing up. That's when you know that it's just a God thing. Mm-hmm. You never plan on it. You never make a decision. And I'll be honest with you. I kept saying, I'm not going to North Carolina because I got to take care of my own backyard. I felt very strong that I didn't have any responsibility to go anywhere else. And right now, if you ask me what made the decision for you to go to North Carolina, I don't know. I don't even remember when the switch flipped for that. All I know is all of a sudden we're doing 100 shed drive to get sheds into North Carolina and Tennessee. And the stories up there they're just incredible, man. It's every time you go up there, I'm not quite to the point to where I'm going to say it, but up until now, I've not been willing to verbalize this, but I don't think it's going to stop at 100 sheds. And I said from the start that if we do this is a God thing, because there is no way any of us little peons can pull this off. Sure, they can go do a concert. North Carolina threw that huge concert, raised $35 million. Excuse me. Which one of them? One of them's building 100 houses. I don't remember who it is. They have huge platforms.
Yeah.
we're just us. We're just guys living in our backyards, hanging out with our buddies. And I'm not even 2 weeks in. And they're coming from everywhere. I got loads coming from Texas. I got loads. We had sheds dropped tonight in North Carolina, 7 sheds that were brought in from northern Indiana. I've got sheds coming from Michigan. I've got sheds coming tomorrow from Ohio. They're just showing up from everywhere. And the majority of them want to be involved. They want, they apologize because they're like, we'd like the help, but the company we're dealing with, or they want to know where the sheds are going. And man, I 100% embrace that. There's nothing that makes me happier than when that shed gets dropped, that they get to meet who the people are and they get to hear that story. And that's exactly what happened tonight with the Loniger boys. You remember how we got to know them? They won the mule.
Yeah. At the bash.
At the bash.
Yeah.
I didn't know who those guys were. I'd had conversations with them, but I didn't know them personally. And they came down and sawed trees. I've got videos of them standing on top of trees.
Even during the Mayfield thing, one of the things that sticks out to me that I remember is there was a group of Amish there that were looking to help, but didn't have a lot of direction. And me and you pulled up at those generators,
the apartment,
and you started speaking in Dutch, which is always funny to me because the look on their face was like, say what now? And then they start talking to me in Dutch, and I'm like, hey, no habla español. I don't know anything that you guys are saying, but you were able to sort of generate this thing that happened naturally. They just began to sort of follow you because they were like, this guy's on a mission. Hey, he also knows Dutch. And like, if we need someone to help, I can certainly help this guy because he can help us with the language barrier, direct us, whatever it looked like. And those boys jumped in and started helping out in areas that we were asking.
So
it's just really weird how some of these things work out. But you said something about one of these guys building 100 homes, and that's amazing. Let's be honest. That's just truly remarkable.
Oh, it's huge. Yeah. He's using his platform.
That's essentially saying, we just threw back, what'd you say? There's 1 million clams on the beach.
Uh-huh.
Just threw back 500,000. And maybe that's not an accurate description.
Oh, it's pretty big.
500,000 out there. And what you're doing might only be 10 or 20 or 30 clams. But if everybody had that same heart to jump in and do that, it would get taken care of, no problem.
Yep.
Thank y'all for listening to today's episode. This was part 1 of a 2-part episode, so be sure to listen next week to finish today's podcast.
Hey, this is Mo Lunsford in sunny Union Grove, North Carolina, and it's coming up on Thanksgiving. And we just want to say thank you for listening to the show, and thank you to all the guests.